What's going on, everybody? It's your man Louie T here with a brand new installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Whew, NBA playoffs have been exhilarating in this second round, and still, we are now a full we are a full 6 games into the second round of the NBA. I don't think I've ever seen this in my life. We are a full 6 games into the second round. There has not been one single home win in the second round of the NBA playoffs. Both one seeds are currently down 0-2. Or excuse me. The one seed in the East is down 0-2. The 2 seed in the East is down 0-2. The 1 seed in the West is down 0-1, and the 6 seed, which is weird having a 6 and a 7 seed play one another, is down 0-1 in the postseason. I've never seen anything like it. Wow. Knicks, am I crazy for thinking the Celtics are still going to win that series? We'll talk about it. You're locked into the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 502nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. NBA playoffs, crazy. Lots of comebacks. There were several in round one, but round one was kind of anticlimactic for me. I can't say it was chalk. I don't think every higher seeded team won. Obviously, the Lakers did not win. They were the 3 seed, and the Rockets did not win, and they were the 2 seed in the West. So it was not chalk, but I think most people thought the Warriors, I think they were favored in that series to beat the Rockets. They were the team that if you were at the bottom of the bracket in the West, that's the team you were gunning for. You wanted the 7 seed, you wanted the Rockets because you felt like they didn't have the playoff experience and they could be got, right? As for the as for the Lakers, they ran into a team that was the perfect antidote for who they are right now. Without rim protection, and they're a very slow-paced team, and the Timberwolves play enough defense to grind you to a halt. And they were able to take advantage of no rim protection and a team that basically was slow of foot, didn't play with pace, and couldn't make shots, right? So and couldn't defend either, right? I mean, they were touching paint in that series all series long. But this second round has just been thrilling stuff. I mean, wow. The Knicks down 20 points again, second game in a row that they come back from 20 points down in the third quarter and defeat the Boston Celtics. The reason I think the Celtics are still going to win this series, and it would not shock me if the Celtics went to New York and won both of those games. It wouldn't shock me if the Celtics won the next 4 games and won this thing 4-2 after trailing 0-2. It wouldn't shock me because, one, the Knicks have not been a good home team in the postseason. The Pistons went in there and won. Now, they've been excellent on the road, as we saw. They won all 3 of their road games against the Pistons in the first series. The Pistons easily could have and probably should have stole game 1. And they were up 7 with less than 3 minutes to go in that game, and they blew it and lost game 1. But they did steal game 2 in New York, and I could see Boston going to Madison Square Garden and stealing both of those games and coming back. Look, it really just boils down to, and we've talked about this, it's not hard. You live by the 3, you die by the 3. I mean, the Celtics at one point, I don't know what the final tally ended up being, but at one point they were 25 of 95. Yes. 25 of 95 from deep in the series at one point in the fourth quarter. And I think they might have chucked up another 5 or 6 and missed all of them. And so they're probably something like 25 for 100 from deep. It's incredible. They're shooting less than 30% from deep, and they've shot over 100 threes in the series or close to it. I mean, that's them, though. That's who they are. They're going to continue to shoot the three. They're not going to stop because they're not falling. But again, live by the three, die by the three. But even with that said, as poorly as they're shooting, and you can't shoot any worse than they're shooting right now. And these are open looks, by the way. These are NBA open looks. And in the NBA, most times, NBA shooters or NBA players knock down open threes. And they're just not hitting them. Tatum had a set shot basically in the corner, late in the fourth quarter, couldn't knock it down. Countless looks. Horford had a couple of wide open looks, couldn't knock it down. Right? White had a couple of, couldn't knock them down. They couldn't even make layups. I mean, when you start picking apart the game, and I talk about this all the time, we talk about NBA playoffs. I love the playoffs because every possession matters. And when you end up losing a game by 1 point, I'm thinking about, and again, you can look at any number of plays, and it's not fair. This is when I used to play basketball. This was the one thing that used to sting the most. When you lose by 1, you start picking apart every single play and every missed opportunity to put the ball in the basket, whether it's a missed free throw, a missed layup, a wide open shot that you normally hit that you missed. They had a fast break where Tatum throws a bounce pass to Jaylen Brown, and it's an easy dunk, and he just doesn't catch the ball, right? I don't know. The ball didn't bounce as high as he thought it was going to. If he was looking for an alley and he got a bounce pass, I don't know. But he didn't catch it and went out of bounds. And at that time, they were up like 15, so it's like, whatever, right? But you lose the game by 1 point. It's just little things like that, right? That it would keep me up at night. They had a bunch of open looks. You can't foul. Like, the end of the game execution for both teams was a little spotty. Like, the Tatum coast to coast, you can't have that out of a timeout. What are we doing? You can't give up a coast to coast dunk with less than 20 seconds to go in the game. I think it was, they might have called that time. I think it was 24 seconds left. You can't give up a coast to coast dunk out of a timeout. Are you kidding me? To give up the lead? And then if you're Drew, you can't foul in that situation. You got to make him make a shot. And hell, there's nobody in the game right now better at it in these type of clutch situations, but you got to make him make a shot. You can't send him to the free throw line. It's a crazy foul, right? Anyway, how about Tatum on that last possession? You got Mitchell Robinson essentially at the wing. Then you kind of can't handle the ball, but you're at the top of the key. You still got him isolated. You can't dribble into a triple team and then try to kick it. Like, you can't dribble into the corner, into trouble. When you got what you want, you got the matchup. You have Mitchell Robinson isolated at the top of the key. Even if it's a step back on Mitchell Robinson, who doesn't want to get blown by, you can't dribble the ball into the corner and get trapped. Where's the psychological sense in that? That's the one place on the court they want you to go. How did you even end up over there? That is insanity. And you could see it happening. Reggie Miller kept saying, they're playing with fire here. They're letting the Knicks hang around. And they kept shooting threes. And he said, this is a repeat of game one. It was literally a carbon copy of game one. You could see it manifesting itself as White hoisted up a three and Tatum hoisted up another three. And they're bricking threes. They're airballing threes. And you're like, yep, here we go again. The lead's down to 15. The lead's down to 12. The lead's down to 9. The lead's down to 6. The lead's down to 4. The lead's down to 2. And you're like, okay, here we go. Here we go again. And they went ice cold. I think they went 6 minutes without a field goal. Until the Tatum dunk, I don't think they had a field goal for the final 6 minutes of the game. Pure insanity. I think they ended the game on something like a 27-6 run, I believe. Like, you can't make this stuff up, man. Unbelievable finish. Now the Celtics stare an 0-2 deficit in the face, heading on the road to MSG to try and calm things down. I think they can do it because in my mind, they're not going to shoot this bad for the entire series. And I don't know what's wrong with Porzingis, but at the end there, I think I would have gone to Porzingis. I don't know if he had anything left to give. Obviously, he's dealing with some kind of respiratory situation that is really limiting his minutes. But if he had anything left in the tank, if he had anything left to give there at the end, I think I would have took out Horford and put him in because he gave you a spark there in the third quarter, and you just needed a bucket. And nobody on the court could get you a bucket. And that's the thing that's killing the Celtics right now is if the three isn't falling, who can just go get me a bucket? Just stop the bleeding. Like, the thing I love about postseason basketball is in the regular season, if you are bleeding, if you're hemorrhaging blood, you just put your head down, go to the basket. They're going to blow the whistle. You're going to get free throws, and you can stop the bleeding that way. In the postseason, they're not blowing the whistle. Right? You're not getting like, I mean, it's almost jail basketball out there. I love it. Like, you have to find a way to create space, get a shot, get to the rim, finish through contact. You can't be looking at the officials for a whistle. They're not giving it to you. I love it. Like, SGA doesn't get to shoot 23 free throws in a playoff game. It's not happening. It's just not happening. You're going to have to figure out a way to create space and make shots, power through contact. And the Celtics right now, they just can't find a way to make a shot when there's an avalanche, when there's a run. They can't seem to stop that run. Somebody's got to step up and say, all right, I'm putting my head down. I'm getting to the cup, and I'm going to put the ball in the basket. Can't look for a foul. Can't look for a foul. Wow. Anyway, I digress. We gotta have a conversation tonight, man. We gotta have a conversation tonight. Y'all know what it is. Late night Louie on the podcast. So I got a bone to pick with y'all. First of all, let me start by saying that there are no bigger purists out there in the world that exist more than comic readers. Comic readers are almost they're almost nauseating, but I get it. I understand the purity of the comic book and wanting it to stay true to the narrative, stay true to the story. But sometimes, can you just loosen the reins a bit? Can you just slacken it just a little bit and make way for just good entertainment? So for a while, I ran from the movie Kraven, the Hunter, on Netflix because I had heard from so many people that it wasn't a good movie. So every time, even though I had it saved to my list on Netflix, every time I would cross it, I would pass it by because, you know, we're human, right? You allow people and their opinions and their input to distort the way you feel about something that you haven't even seen yet. I'm a big believer in you just need to watch it for yourself because my tastes aren't necessarily your taste, vice versa, right? I can tell you, man, that movie's trash. And you'd be like, I liked it, right? So we watched Havoc. I think the movie, what's the name of the movie we watched? Bay, what's the name of the movie we watched? The one that we didn't like. Was it Havoc? What was the name of the movie? Havoc? Yeah. We watched the movie Havoc. Yeah. On Netflix. And the storyline was all over the place. You know, it was too many different stories that they were trying to piece together that you had to follow so that, and like my wife said, she said it best. They set it up, and we've seen this in movies before, right? Sometimes they set up the storyline so that everyone can kill everyone, and the main character can stay alive, right? Even though they're in this precarious situation, don't know how they're going to get out of it. But it one of my favorite movies that I've loved watching is Enemy of the State with Will Smith. Love that movie. Love that. It's one of my favorite Will Smith movies, right? Very underrated movie. And the beauty in that movie is that there are multiple storylines that tie it all together, right? But it all makes sense, and it's not hard to follow. It's not complicated. It's a very simple movie, but there are a number of different players that tie in together that keep him alive at the end. That if not for those parties involved, he can't walk out of that situation. He or Brill can't walk out of that situation alive, right? It's because of all of those different storylines coming together at the end. That's how he's able to escape the situation. That's kind of how they set up Havoc. There's a lot going on though, right? You got some figure in government, a mayor or something, right? You've got his son. We don't really even know the real backstory with those two, but they don't like each other, obviously. And so you've got that. You've got the son being killed at the beginning, and they really don't go into detail with that. Obviously, the one of the main characters was a part of a group of cops who were dirty and doing some things under the table, and obviously they ended up killing. We find out later in the movie. Spoiler alert! If you haven't watched the movie, I'm sorry. I should have said spoiler alert. But long story short, I don't need to go into specifics. It was a lot, and I didn't necessarily love the ending. It was predictable, but whatever. So we were really really disappointed after that movie because we had built that thing up in our head like, yeah, we're gonna, we got the whole day out of the way. The kids are in the bed, and we're waiting to watch this movie, and it didn't live up to the hype. So okay. So I went sifting through my list on Netflix, and I've been running from Kraven for a very long time. And I watched the preview again, and I was like, I think this has a chance to be good. So I looked at my wife. I said, it's 2 hours and some change. And anytime the first number is a 2, we got to get full confirmation from one another because that's a commitment. And you know how we talk about in the combine, how it's a big difference between a 4.49 and a 4.50. How it's just 100th of a second, but the difference in that 10th being a 4 versus a 5, massive, right? That's how it feels when you click on a movie and you see that it's 2 hours and 5 minutes long, right? Usually if it's 2 hours, like 2 hours, 12 minutes, something like that. But you see that first number is a 2. It could be a movie that's an hour, that's 1 hour and 57 minutes. That doesn't require a look like, hey, you got 2 in you? Even though the hour and 57, that's 2 hours, right? But as soon as that first number is a 2, that's a look over like, hey, you got a 2-piece in you? She was like, yeah. I was like, you want to do this one? She was like, yeah, just go ahead. At that point, she was defeated. I was like, all right, I got this. I'm going to find us a good movie, The Rebound. So I turned on Kraven the Hunter. And the biggest gripe that I heard from these comic book, and I'm a nerd too, right? But these I'm not to that level though, right? I'm not a comic book nerd to that level where if the movie doesn't stay exactly true to the script and the comic book itself, then I can't rock with it. So I just like good movies, period. And so with this plot, obviously, if you're not familiar with Kraven and his character, he's an anti-hero, right? So he's a villain that hunts animals. And in the comic, he really pretty much hunts after Spider-Man and looks at Spider-Man as his greatest challenge. Like, he's bored of hunting animals, and he views Spider-Man as the ultimate catch. And that is his obsession, right? So he's a bad guy. As Hollywood often does, it's hard to sell a villain. It's hard to sell a villain remaining a villain. That's a hard sell. People like good guys, right? So they're going to make the villain some sort of sympathetic figure, and they're going to kind of change the angle just a bit. In this case, a lot. Kraven is a good guy in this movie, obviously, and I don't want to spoil it for you. Look, the movie's been out since 2024. I'm late to the party. This is a 2024 movie. So if you haven't seen it already, I don't feel bad. But at the end of the day, I watched the movie. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was really well done. And we'll see if the negative feedback for the movie derails them doing a second one, because obviously the way it ended with his brother turning out to be a pseudo villain is going to put them in a position to do a number 2 if they want to. But we'll see if they do it or not. I thought the movie was well done. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Not to get into the specifics of the movie, but I thought it was well done. I enjoyed it. And so, our tastes aren't the same, though. I've realized that. Even though we like some of the same things, our tastes aren't the same. Our tastes aren't the same. Because a lot of the people who don't like Kraven, and again, I'm not here to, because it's, again, everybody has their tastes, right? Everybody has their preference. But I'm trying to think of the movie with what's the movie with all of the with Harley Quinn and all of the different superheroes in it? What's that movie called? Oh man, I can see the artwork for the damn movie, and I just can't think of what it's called. What's the name of that movie? Suicide Squad. Thank you. Suicide Squad. I like the first one better than the second one. And that's an unpopular opinion. When I said that to you guys the last time, you would have thought that you would have thought that I said something about your mom or your grandma or your sister or somebody you loved. It was blasphemy, right? I like the first one better than the second one. That's an unpopular opinion. Both of them were good. I like the first one better. I was told I was crazy for that. That's okay. I liked Kraven. It was a good movie. Shoot me. So, anyway, I digress. I thought Kraven was awesome, and I would love them to do a number 2. I would love a sequel. I don't know if I'm going to get it, because I understand the prevailing thought here is that the movie sucked, because again, it didn't stick to the true essence of who Kraven is. And again, if I asked you why you didn't like the movie, these are real conversations I would love to have. If I asked you, okay, you don't like the movie Kraven, tell me why. And if you can explain it to me and it makes sense, I might not agree with you, but at least I can say, okay, I can rock with it. A lot of you don't like the movie just because you don't like the movie, which is, I just don't understand, right? So if you could tell me why you don't like the movie and it makes sense, oh, okay, I can see that. I get that. Yeah. All right. I mean, I don't agree, but I get it. Then cool. But I think a lot of people didn't like the movie because they took an anti-hero and essentially made him a hero. That's what I think. They took a villain, made him a hero, made him a sympathetic figure, and they're like, bro, that's not how this works. That's not how Kraven was designed when he was in the comics. What are you doing? I think that's no, I did not like Morbius at all. It wasn't a good movie. I told you I don't care about, and I get it that they steered away from what Morbius was supposed to be. And again, I get it. I didn't think it was a good movie though. That's the difference. This was a good movie to me. Morbius was not a good movie. It was a bad movie. Okay. So yeah. Again, we can agree to disagree. But yes, and I'm aware that's not how he got his powers. I'm aware. Look, you know Hollywood's gonna tinker with things. Again, I'm not that much of a stickler. Like, again, I understand he didn't get his powers from a lion's blood falling into his bloodstream and a secret potion. You know, we know he was experimenting with different chemicals and things of that. We know that wasn't the way that the character really got his powers. I don't care. I just want to be entertained and I want to like the movie. Again, I don't. Again, I'm not the purist that most comic book readers are. I'm not the purist that they are. I just want to be entertained. I just want to be entertained. Right? Anyway, I digress. Like, Lou likes cheese on his superhero. Likes no cheese on his superhero movies. Okay. All right. I can't with y'all, man. Anyway, I digress. I just wanted to bring that up. And if you've got any recommendations, we're in that stage of the offseason now where lots and lots of series and movies will be watched. If you've got any recommendations, please send them my way. Even something that you don't like, that you think, well, shit, if he liked Kraven, he might like this. Like, just because you didn't like it doesn't mean I won't like it. If you watched it and you say he might like it, I didn't care for it, but he might like it, send it my way. You never know, right? Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the show. Why you came here? You didn't come here for me to talk you to death about movies, or the NBA playoffs. But that's what we do on the podcast. We talk about everything under the sun, right? Anyhow, let's get to the proceedings this evening. And you know how we do that. We kick it off with the gym dropping session. Let me drop this gym on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So let's talk about the trade that commenced today between the Cowboys and the Steelers. Big trade. Huge ramifications, potentially on both sides. I myself think, as of right now, the Steelers have won this trade. Now, we obviously got to see how George Pickens turns out in Dallas and what the Steelers do with that third-round pick that they're going to secure once this thing becomes final, and what they do with that in 2026. But the Steelers, in a lot of the conversation, and we actually had this conversation briefly this morning about the Steelers just knowing when to get out of certain wide receiver, businesses, and getting out of it at the exact right time before things go absolutely south. I've watched the Hard Knocks with the AFC North, and I told you guys as I was watching it, man, George, and we already knew this. I talk about George Pickens all the time about being a head case. We talked about that, getting into fights with dudes and pouting when he doesn't get the football, and he does stupid shit like hold the ball with one hand and fumble. Like, he does a lot of dumb shit where you just go, bro, where's your brain? What are you doing? What are you even thinking right now? Like, that's not smart football, but he's a talented football player. But there's only so much you can take. And Mike Tomlin, I've said he is one of the most underrated coaches in the league, not because of his ability to stay above the 500 line, which is just an insane record that he holds for most consecutive seasons without a losing record. But his ability to manage personalities, which I've always said, one of the superpowers of the best coaches that we've ever seen is their ability to manage personalities. The best coaches know how to manage personalities. You think about some of the best teams we've ever seen assembled, some of the most successful teams we've ever seen assembled. And it doesn't really matter what sport we're talking about. You're talking about the Bulls of the 90s. You know, I'm pretty sure that Dennis Rodman wasn't the easiest guy to deal with, right? Hell, I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan wasn't always the easiest guy to deal with. He punched Steve Kerr in the face at practice, right? But you figure out how to manage those personalities, how to get these guys to play together, come together as one for one common goal, right? We know Kobe and Shaq eventually couldn't stand each other, yet they still were able to get the amount of championships that they were able to get out of their relationship. There was a massaging of that situation that you had to pull these guys together, get guys to tuck their egos in and move them aside for the greater good, right? We've seen Mike Tomlin try and do this on numerous occasions in Pittsburgh, whether it was Le'Veon Bell, Martavis Bryant, Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, now George Pickens. He's done this so many times throughout his career. Hell, even to a lesser degree, Juju Smith-Schuster. You know, there would be some kind of issues with him doing things on social media. He was a big TikTok guy, and they're like, yo, stop doing that shit, bro. And he kept doing it. Tomlin's put up with a lot. And usually he knows when he's at wit's end and we got to get out. It's getting toxic. We got to get out now. He got out of the Antonio Brown business just in time. It was going south fast. We saw how bad that ended. That was crash and burn status. He got out just in the nick of time. He knew it, though. He had milked that cash cow for all it was worth, and he got out of that bitch as soon as he saw an exit. Boy, did he ever. Martavis Bryant was never the same after he left Pittsburgh. Chase Claypool isn't even in the NFL anymore. He went from, damn, I think Chase Claypool might be nice, to, damn, what happened to that boy? Brrr, what happened to that boy? He was talking shit. They put a clap into that boy. We don't even know. I don't even know where he's at. Is he in the USFL or UFL or whatever the hell that league's called? Is he playing in the Canadian football? Where the hell is Chase Claypool anyway? I don't know. Stop asking. Deontay Johnson, we saw the saga last year, right? I mean, how many teams did he get traded to after leaving Pittsburgh last year? How many teams did he go to? How bad of an end to a season was that? I mean, my goodness. The only ending that was worse last year was the 49ers linebacker that quit at halftime. Was like, I'm done. I don't want to play no more. I'm just like, F it. Devondre Campbell. He just at halftime just said, F it. I'm done. I don't want to play no more. You gave my spot to who? I don't care. He was the starter before he tore his ACL or Achilles or whatever he did in the Super Bowl. I don't care that Drake Greenlaw back. You gave my spot to him. I'm playing good ball for real. All right, bet I'm out. Peace. That was the only ending that was worse than Deontay Johnson's last year. It's crazy. And now here's George Pickens. This guy is uber talented, going into the prime of his career, and Mike Tomlin bailed. What does that tell you? And I told you guys earlier today, I said, I don't think that the Cowboys are going to extend George Pickens. That's the only way that, unless they win a Super Bowl or they extend George Pickens before the season, that's the only way I can justify this trade. Well, one of the beat reporters already came out and said that they're not going to extend him. That both parties, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm pretty sure George Pickens just decided, you know what? My stock isn't really that high right now. I didn't have a great season last year. I'm pretty sure he would like to get paid right now. But the pay right now and what it could look like if he has a healthy, outstanding season would look vastly different. And so he's betting on himself to go out, have an 1,100-yard season and 9, 10 touchdowns and, really establish himself as a premier wide receiver in this league, cement that, and then look to get paid next offseason. For me, and I can understand Dallas's position on what if it doesn't work? What if he's too big of a head case? Or what if, the juice ain't worth the squeezing, right? What if this isn't a good match for us? Well, I don't think a third-round pick is something you give up to find that out. You trade a day 1 or 2 pick for a player that you want to keep long term. You do not give up a first or second day pick for a player that you're not sure about. That's bad business. That's what we call that, bad business. Now, if it was a quarterback, sure, we've seen teams do that. Carolina did it with Baker Mayfield, if I'm not mistaken. Gave up a day 2 pick. I believe it was a third-round pick. I believe it was. I could be wrong. Somebody gave up, I thought, a couple of, picks for Sam Darnold at one point, just to kind of check the temperature on him. So, but it's quarterbacks. That's different. You're talking about a receiver here. Any skill position player that you're trading for and you're giving up a day 2 pick, he better be there more than 1 year, or else it's not a good trade. Unless you win the Super Bowl, it's not a good trade. And so Jackie Slater, I forgot her first name, but her last name is Slater. I was about to call her Jackie Slater, and I know that is not her name, but I think her name starts with a J. But Jackie Slater is the Hall of Fame left tackle of the Los Angeles Rams. She can't have the same name as him, but it's Slater. She said that they're not going to extend him before the season. The contract is going to stay exactly the way that it is. He's got 1 year left, and they're going to let it play out. And they said that's going to motivate him to be the best version of himself. Again, a guy in a contract year, you usually get the best out of someone, knowing that the bag is on the line. You got to perform if you want to get to the bag. And so they're trying to dangle that carrot in front of George Pickens' face. Again, it's bad business because you're going to pay him more money if he does pan out for you, which is why you don't just give up a third-round pick willy-nilly in the first place if you're not sure before you trade for him. Again, it's not hard. This equation, it's not difficult, right? Talented football player. It helps the Cowboys in 2025. But again, they're not going to extend him. They still got to get Micah Parsons done. And again, it just feels like this offseason, the Cowboys have done a lot, but they've done a lot to exist in a space for one season. Like Kaiir Elam, last year of his deal, he's really a guy that you're hoping can fill in, because I don't think anybody anticipates Trayvon Diggs being able to perform for most of, if any of this upcoming season. So you bring in Elam to maybe fill that void. What if he balls out for you? What if he balls out? And again, that was a low risk. I'm not tripping about that one. If he balls out and you can't pay him, it is what it is. But all of the moves that they've made, it feels like, hey, they're just trying to get by for a year. Like, let's just try and win a Super Bowl this year. Cool. Doesn't feel sustainable, though. Doesn't feel sustainable. Because everybody's got to get paid. And not everybody is going to be able to get paid. And as I've said already, I'm not paying 2 receivers massive money unless they are both model citizens, do it the right way, excellent players, they put up numbers, they're consistently healthy and available. I would like to do that without having already paid my quarterback, but sometimes, if somebody's got to be willing to take less in that equation. Like, Waddle didn't break the bank when he got his deal in Miami, so you were able to do that with him and Tyreek Hill. Smitty took less in Philadelphia with him and AJ, so that was able to work. T. Higgins would have gotten a lot more money on the open market, so you could argue he took a little bit less, but I think he took what he should have taken in Cincinnati. Had he gotten to the open market, he'd have got way more money. Same could be said for Chris Godwin. He took a lot less. Obviously, he was coming off of, a torn ACL, so the circumstances are a little bit different for him, but he took a lot less. Even with that torn ACL, had he hit the open market, Chris Godwin would have gotten closer to $30 million a year. But he took less to be in that environment with Mike Evans, and so I don't think George Pickens is taking less. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he does what he sets out to do this year, he's not taking less. And I know the Cowboys aren't in a great place. I mean, they always, restructure deals and do all of this stuff to create cap space. But again, I'm glad my team doesn't live that way. That's no way to live. Because you're robbing Paul to pay Peter, right? But eventually you got to pay. So whether you get it from here or you get it from there, you still got to pay. It's going to catch up with you. So anyway, I digress. I think it's ultimately a great trade in the short term, as I've said, just to sum it up. But long term, it's not a great move if you don't win the Super Bowl or you don't get to sign him long term. And as I've said, the Cowboys are going to botch the economics of this, which they've already confirmed with the report that they're not going to extend him. So again, if he balls out, you're not going to get a deal done as soon as the season's over. So you're going to have to franchise tag him. The franchise tag is $24 million right now, I believe. So I'm pretty sure they would be cool with him playing for $24 million, because a deal that he would sign would pay him on average way more than $24 million, you would think. So again, George Pickens is a second-round pick. Second-round picks ain't trying to hear none of that shit you talking about. I need my bread. That's why T. Higgins was like, bro, I'm not really trying to hear that shit, bro. I need my money. Like, first-round picks, a little bit different because you making money. Even though you ain't gotten to that ultimate bag, that first-round contract, especially if you get to that fifth-year option, that's some damn good money you making over there, right? Especially if you a top 10 pick, you making real money. First-round picks are making really good money, especially if they get to that final year of their deal. Second-round picks, they ain't sniffing that kind of bread. The totality of their contract might be year 3 of a rookie contract of someone that got drafted in the first round. So I'm trying to get to that bag, bro. George Pickens ain't giving the Cowboys no discount. If he balls out this year, he wants all of his money. ALL, all of his money. Which is why you got to get out in front of this. But the Cowboys are like, nah, we got to see it first. Well, that's how you pay more money. But if they're willing to do that, so be it. That's on them. We'll see how it works out for them. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to our next segment of the show. And that, of course, is social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. Y'all know how it is. Y'all out there, you in the comment section, you want your comment read. There are two ways to go about it. We got a little bit of time tonight, so you can use the hashtag. But again, depending on how long we go, because I got a lot to talk about here. So I might get to the end of my spiel, get to a couple supers, and then be like, bro, we about to go to garbage time. So at your own risk, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent, we will react to it and talk about your comment. But if you want to ensure that your comment is read and reacted to, the best way to go about that is to super chat. Use the super chat function. It ensures that not only is your comment put up on the screen, read and reacted to, but it also allows you to jump straight to the front of the line to ensure that your comment is responded to. So with that said, let's talk about a couple of topics that I want to get to. But the first of which is the options that have been picked up and declined for the 2025 season. So the 2022 draft class is now going into year 4. And when you're going into year 4 as a first round pick, you are now at the point of your career where the team has to make a decision on whether you've performed at a high enough level to this point of your career to warrant them picking up the 5th-year option. If the answer is yes, you pick up the 5th-year option. You pay the money. You lock yourself in to that amount of money. No matter what happens, the guy could have an awful year in year 4 and you want to get out of it. It's too late. You've locked yourself in. That guy's getting that money. He's guaranteed that money essentially in the 5th year of his deal. So that's why you see teams who aren't sure about a player just say, nah, we good. We'll decline that option. And if they ball out in that final year of their contract, we'll re-up after that. Because a lot of times that number that they re-up for is going to be less anyway, right? But I'm always fascinated by the 5th-year option being picked up or not, because it's a big deal, right? To me, it is, at least. It's a big deal, the 5th-year option. Because it speaks to a team and how they feel about a player. They're essentially telling you, you were worth the first-round pick if they pick up the 5th-year option. If they don't pick it up, we are disappointed in your play to this point. And now you got to, essentially play for the bag in your 4th year of your rookie contract. And ultimately your final year of your rookie deal, because we're not picking up the 5th-year option. So as you can see, the list in front of us of all of the players who had their 5th-year options picked up. Let's see. Let's count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 players on this list. So that means 14 players didn't have their 5th-year option picked up in some way, shape, or form, right? So let me check something out here, because I think, yeah, we got to see that. Derek Stingley. So that's 19, because Derek Stingley, if you see at the bottom, it says Derek Stingley Jr. had his option accepted via his extension through 2029. So that makes it that takes the number to 19, because Stingley, in essence, with his extension to make him the highest paid corner in the league, picked up the 5th-year option in essence doing so. So if you go through this list, Trayvon Walker, I believe, was the number 1 pick in the draft that year. Aiden Hutchinson was 2nd or 3rd. Stingley was either 2nd or 3rd. I think Stingley was 2nd. Hutchinson was 3rd. Sauce Gardner, I believe, was 4th. Thibodeau was 5th, I believe. And then I think Cromwell was 7th or 8th. 7th, because Drake London was 8th. Charles Cross was 9th. Garrett Wilson was 10th. Olave was 11th. The Saints traded up. Jameson Williams was 12 because the Lions traded up. Jordan Davis. You see where we're going here, right? So Trayvon Walker, number 1 overall pick. I think some people have not really paid attention to what he's been doing. He's gotten better each and every single year of his career. I think he's coming off of a double-digit sack season. In a down year for Jacksonville, he played his best football. They pick up the 5th-year option. Aiden Hutchinson, $20.9 million for his 5th-year option. Why is Aiden Hutchinson's 5th-year option more than Trayvon Walker's? I wonder if it has to do with your position and what you are listed as. It has to. Let's see. Yeah, it has to. Okay, so we figured it out. Okay, because I'm looking at some of the other guys. For instance, Drake London and Garrett Wilson and Olave are all receivers. So their numbers are very similar, right? As a matter of fact, Wilson's and London's are exactly the same. Olave's is a little bit less because as you go down in the draft, right, the further down you go, the more the money decreases, right? The higher you are in the draft, the money increases. So they're rating that same range. I think London went 8th and Wilson went 10th. So I'm assuming because they're rating that same space, their number is the same. And then Olave is out of the top 10. So his number goes down just slightly to 15.5. Same thing with Jameson Williams. He was the next pick at 12. So his is the same as Olave. So I think we figured that out. So it's position based, right? You know, Nkongwu and or Ikonu and Charles Cross are both at 17.6. So so I'm guessing Trayvon Walker is listed, and this is why it's important that your position is, exact, because I'm assuming he's probably listed as a linebacker. That's why the number is 14.75 and not an edge, because it would probably be like 21 million if he was an edge, like Aiden Hutchinson is. That's my guy. I'm guessing Kayvon Thibodeau is listed as a linebacker. That's why teams do that. Like, it feels like semantics, but it matters. Like, I don't think they're listing Kayvon Thibodeau as an edge. I think they're listing him as a linebacker. Because I think that's like the new trend, is just to blur those lines. You just call him an edge. I know that's what I do. Like, if a dude's a hybrid linebacker defensive, just call him an edge, right? But that's not how it's listed in the pay scale. Like, you either a linebacker or you a defensive end. Defensive ends get broken off. As you can see, Aiden Hutchinson is a defensive end. That's why it's at 20 million. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, and Trayvon Walker are both listed as linebackers. So just a little food for thought there. Sauce Gardner, 20 million. Olave, 15. So does any of these names stand out? Jordan Davis had his picked up at 12.9. Kyle Hamilton, 18.6. Trent McDuffie, 13.6. Tyler Smith, 21.3. Jermaine Johnson, 13.4. Devontae Wyatt, 13.9. George Karlaftis, 15.2. Dax Hill, 12.7. I wonder if, and again, the numbers decrease as you get later in the draft. My son was looking at this list. It was crazy. And he was like, dang, the Jets had 3 first-round picks. I was like, yeah. It was crazy. He started talking, and he was like, dang, the Lions had 2 and the Chiefs had 2. I was like, damn, a lot of teams had multiple first-round picks in 2022. I was like, sheesh. So I'm looking at the comment section, and I see you guys are saying maybe it has to do with like awards, Pro Bowls, All Pros, things of that nature. Interesting. Maybe that increases the value as well. I'm trying to think. I mean, we know Aiden Hutchinson has made at least a Pro Bowl. I don't think he's made an All Pro. Sauce Gardner has made All Pro before, though. So, that's interesting. Maybe that also figures into the equation. Thibodeau hasn't made, and neither is Trayvon Walker, Pro Bowls. So maybe that's why their money is similar. Um, maybe that does have something to do with it. Because as you get down here, but like Tyler Smith hasn't been a Pro Bowler, has he? Like, why is his so high at 21.3 million? He was like the 4th, 25th, 26th pick in the draft. So maybe does have something to do with maybe it's not just the position you play, but maybe it has something to do with accolades and things of that nature. I don't know. That's something that I'm going to have to investigate. I'm actually intrigued by how they come up with these numbers. But do any of these names surprise you? There's one name here that I'm like, huh, interesting. Not that he's not a good player. I just wasn't sure if they felt the need to pick up his 5th-year option based off some of the things that had transpired. The name that stands out to me is Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions. Really good football player, but he's been in a lot of trouble. Injuries, suspensions. His name, he was on the block. I really believe that for the right price, he could have been had during the draft. I really think the Lions were listening. They were interested in moving him, but they weren't going to give him away. And as I had mentioned to you, the depth of this draft it didn't lend itself to teams feeling the need to make deals. I talked about that. I was like, you're not going to see a lot of trades involving players for draft capital because teams look at this draft and say, I can get me a starter out of this draft. I can get me 2 starters. I can get me 3. I can get me 4 starters out of this draft. This is a starters type of draft. They may not be Pro Bowlers, but I can get me a starter out of the draft. So why would I give up an opportunity to draft a cheap starter to get a guy that's going to need to be paid in a year or 2? Doesn't make any sense, right? So most of these names on the I'm not a Kayvon Thibodeau fan. I don't think he's very good. I think he's a basic defensive end. I don't think he's solid. I'll just say that. He's not trash. I think a Giants fan said it best. I think it might have been Bad Dog who said he's not a bad player. He's just never going to live up to his draft status. I totally agree with that. I think he's the only name up here where I look at him and think he's like, he's basic. He's all right. Doesn't move the needle for me. The rest of these guys, man, George Karlaftis has really surprised me. I did not think he was going to be this good. I was so wrong about him. So we go from the guys that did have their 5th-year option picked up to the ones that did not have their 5th-year options picked up. So 12 players, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then LouieTeeN was cut by the Vikings, who was the 32nd pick in the draft. So he was not eligible. So, I mean, sheesh. Getting cut before you even get to a 5th-year option decision is wicked. So of these players, first of all, let's clean one thing up, because one of these players doesn't belong. Can you pick out the one that doesn't belong? You know that meme of the soldiers in a line, and then there's a clown like 3rd or 4th in line, and he's like sticking out like a sore thumb. He doesn't belong. One of these players doesn't belong. Can you tell me which one it is? And, just continuing with the theme of the first round in 2022, Evan Neal, another giant first-round pick. I think they had 2 picks in the first 7 selections. Ouch. Coming away with Thibodeau and Neal. Looking back on it, yikes. That's not maximizing your draft capital. But that's another team in the first round of the 2022 NFL draft, which it'll be fun to look back at that one because so many teams had multiple picks. Jefferson Montenegro, you got it, man. Tyler Linderbaum should not be on this list. He's really good at center, like really, really good. So the backstory behind Tyler Linderbaum being on this list is that his 5th-year option would have cost, and so you know what? I think you guys are right. It is because he's a center. There's no way a center who was drafted 25th overall is supposed to be banging you over the skull for $24.3 million. But had they picked up his 5th-year option, it would have cost them $24.3 million. The highest paid center in the league right now is making $18 million a year. So in their mind, there's no way in hell we're going to give you $24 million in one season when the highest paid center is making 18. That just doesn't make any sense. So instead of picking up your option, we're just going to try to, work out a long-term deal with you, decline your 5th-year option, work out a long-term deal, give you new money, and they'll probably still make him the highest paid center in the league. They're just not going to make him the highest paid center in the league by over $6 million more than the guy that was the previous highest paid center in the league, if that makes sense. He'll probably be making 19 and a half or 20 million a year, right? It won't be, 20, almost 25 million a year, right? Instead of him signing a 4-year, $100 million extension, which is 25 a year, it'll be 4 years, 80 million, or 4 years, 78 million, which will still make him the highest paid center in the league, right? So, all the rest of these guys have been big disappointments in their career so far. Evan Neal has been disastrous, and then had the audacity to taunt Giants fans by telling them that I play in the NFL and you probably work at a fast food restaurant or some bullshit he said. Like, shut the hell up. Yo, trash ass. Kenyon Green, I just remember Commanders fans being like, shit, we dodged a bullet. He was almost the Commander. If our Dodo general manager would have had his way, I think we would have had Kenyon Green instead of Jahan Dotson. I mean, not that worked out for us, but we did flip him for a 3rd-round pick. The Texans didn't flip Kenyon Green for a damn thing. So there's that. And speaking of Jahan Dotson, his 5th-year option was not picked up by the Philadelphia Eagles. But he is the Super Bowl champion. Go Jahan. Zion Johnson has not worked out. His 5th-year option not picked up by the Chargers. Treylon Burks, I remember this pick when it happened, and I said he's going to be a bust. I could tell you flat out when he came out of Arkansas, he's going to stink. He's going to stink. And boy, did he ever. People kept trying to tell me because they were basing his projection off of DK's. And I'm like, they are not the same. I wasn't the DK fan either, but DK won me over, obviously. But DK also came out running a 4.3 something. Treylon Burks ran like a 4.5, right? Like the two weren't the same. They just weren't the same. Titans whiffed on that one. Trevor Penning, I was wrong about him. I thought he was going to be a badass in the NFL. He came in the league as a bully. He's still a bully, but he's not a very good one. He's not a very good one. Saints have declined his 5th-year option. That's another team that had multiple first-round picks that year. You see the trend here? Trevor Penning and Chris Olave were Saint selections that year. So another team with multiple picks in the first round. Kenny Pickett, Steelers desperate for a quarterback. You never can reach for a quarterback. It never works out. It just never does. He was the only quarterback to go. Remember, that was one of the worst quarterback draft classes we had seen in a while. I think you got to go back to what year was it that we had some rough years, man. The Johnny Manziel year, I think, was a pretty rough quarterback draft class, but it wasn't as bad as this one. I think you got to go all the way back to the year when EJ Manuel, because even in 2019, Kyler Murray was still the number 1 overall pick, right? There's usually at least one guy that ends up being somewhat decent. You got to go back to like the EJ Manuel draft when he was picked in that same like middle of the draft area by the Bills, and he wasn't good. And I don't think any other quarterback was very good in that draft either. You'd have to go back and look, but yeah, Kenny Pickett stinks. So the Eagles, so shit, the Browns have him now. I guess they declined the 5th-year option on Kenny Pickett. Quay Walker, he's been a disappointment. And I think some of the frustration the Packers have with him is he's a head case. Like, you know how hard it is to get ejected from an NFL game? You know how much shit you have to do to get ejected from an NFL? Like, I don't think I've ever seen anyone, like, get ejected from a game by picking up 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties except Quay Walker. Like, that shit just doesn't happen. Like, you get the first one and they say it over the PA, right? They say it over the loudspeaker, and that kind of just like wakes you up like, okay, bro, I can't get thrown out of the game, so I got to chill. He doesn't have any chill. I remember getting thrown out of a Sunday night game. Then I remember him getting thrown out of another game, and I'm just like, bro, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Wake up. You're hurting your team. Stop. He just doesn't get it. And he's super talented, but he's one of those dudes who just don't get it. Kaiir Elam, raw prospect coming out of Florida, that just never really blossomed. Bills took a swing, struck out, traded him to Dallas. We'll see if he's able to resurrect his career or not. We talked about Linderbaum already. He's going to get an extension to stay in Baltimore. That's why they turned down the 5th-year option. It was more to pick up the option than it would be to extend him. So they're going to work on an extension with him. Devin Lloyd, I was so mixed on Devin Lloyd coming out of Utah, right? Because he wasn't fast, but everybody kept telling me he's a playmaker. And I told you, one of the areas I struggle sometimes with identifying like how talented a guy might be transitioning from college to the NFL is linebacker, because you're not sure if he's being utilized correctly, what they're asking him to do, how they're coaching him, how they're teaching it. And then you get a guy, he's super talented, and you put him in the right positions, and all of a sudden he flourishes and he blossoms and he turns into a stud. And people were telling me that's the case with Devin Lloyd. Like, they're just not using him right at Utah. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't see it. And ended up being right about Devin Lloyd. Cole Strange, even at the time of the pick, it felt a bit strange by the Patriots. Clearly, it did not work out. And then Louie TeeNetwork, another guy that I was just like, I don't love the pick. I didn't love him at Georgia. I didn't love him as a first-round pick. I didn't really understand what the Vikings were even doing here with this pick. So there you have it. It's always fun to look at this because we always talk about how long it takes to evaluate a draft, right? And we always say, oh, yeah, well, you need 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years. Like, after the 3rd year, you pretty much know what it is, right, with a draft. Well, this is the 3rd year, right? We're going into year 4 of all these players. How often is it that we actually go back, though, 3 years later and assess that draft? We always say it in the moment, like, the 2025 draft just passed. Oh, we can't really grade a draft right now. You need 3 or 4 years. How often do you actually go back 3 years later and look? When the 5th-year options are either picked up or declined, it's my way of going back at least to that first round and saying, how successful of a draft was this? So this draft is kind of split. I mean, you had 13 guys here, 12 really with Linderbaum. You know, he would have been on the other list if the money wasn't, made sense for the Ravens. But you're talking about 2/3 of the league, roughly, picking up the 5th-year option on their players. So that's a relatively successful, first round. I want to go back and eventually on one of these podcast episodes when we haven't had a throwback episode in a long time. Eventually we'll have a throwback episode on the podcast, and we'll go back and look at some of these drafts, some of these more recent drafts. We've went back in the time machine and looked at drafts of yesteryear, the 05 and the 04 and the 07, but we could look at some of these more recent drafts, kind of see what they look like now. We've had enough time to let them breathe at this point. So anyway, I digress. So a couple of conversations real quick just to throw out there, and then we'll get to the comment section. Justin Tucker was released by the Ravens. I think all of us saw the writing on the wall when the Ravens drafted the kicker Loop in the draft. I think he was out of Arizona. I don't remember exactly where he was from, but they drafted a kicker, I think, in the 6th round. I went, uh-oh. When I saw that, I said, uh-oh. That's the last straw for Justin Tucker. They were going to get rid of him anyway. Even if they didn't draft a kicker, they would have signed a veteran and they would have moved on from him. What a precipitous fall from grace. I mean, this time last year, we were talking about Justin Tucker as arguably the greatest kicker in NFL history. And without a shadow of a doubt, this man was going to be a Hall of Famer. All he had to do was finish his career and just be the guy that he had been for, the vast majority of his career. He was going to be a Hall of Famer. And then you fast forward a year, and he had an awful regular season last year. I think he finished up pretty solidly in the postseason. I don't think he missed a kick in the postseason for the Ravens, but his regular season was miserable. He lost his confidence. Then the allegations come out. And at this point, they don't feel like allegations anymore. It just feels like an avalanche. It feels like Deshaun Watson all over again. And, allegations are when it's 1 or 2, maybe 3 people. Okay. It's their word against yours. When it's 18 people, when it's like 6 or 7 different massage parlors that said, hey, yeah, no, he can't come back here. We've banned him. Yeah, he's a menace. Okay. He's an absolute menace. This man's not getting in the Hall of Fame now. First of all, you know how hard it is for a kicker to get into the Hall of Fame? They're not letting we're not letting Justin Tucker in the Hall of Fame now. And his NFL career might be over. Isn't that crazy? I mean, if a team gets desperate enough in the season, because you know what it is, you got to let it breathe for a little while. Let that bitch breathe, right? Let it breathe for a little while. You hope people forget, because we live in a 24-hour news cycle. So enough shit happens, enough time passes. People aren't going to forget, but they're less upset when you run him back. When you spin the block and you come back and Jay Tuck is in the whip. The hell is he doing here? Never mind, man. We need a kicker, man. Put him in, right? I think his career might be done though. I wouldn't be shocked if we get to week 8 or 9 and some team's struggling with the field goal kicking and he's sitting out there and they're like, yo, they have real conversations like, hey, I know we said we weren't going to do this, but Justin Tucker's available. Somebody in the organization has to be of right mind when that conversation takes place and say, no, we're not doing this. We can't. You just need one voice. But if everybody looks at each other, I mean, if you cool with it, I'm cool with it. if nobody stands up and says, no, we're not doing this, it's not the right thing to do. You know what I hate, though? I have to say this. So the Ravens put out a statement basically saying, like, it was like the tone of the message was that of commemorating a great career, right? Like, hey, this was a difficult decision. Justin's been a tremendous part of this organization for the better part of a decade, however long he's been in Baltimore. And this is a really tough decision, but we felt like it was the best for all parties involved to part ways. He's been tremendous, and we thank him for his contributions to our organization. So, to that extent, right? I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of the message that they put out on social media. To which Mina Kimes wrote, she retweeted it and said, "What's up with that tone?" Essentially, right? I'm paraphrasing it, but it literally was her bitching about the tone, and I'm like, who cares? Like, why is that a big deal? Like, why do we have to make everything a big deal? So they put out a statement saying, hey, he was a really good football player. Sorry it ended this way, and this was a tough decision for us, but we're moving on. It's not like there's a video of him beating the shit out of his fiance like it's Ray Rice or something. Like, we're not even, again, I feel pretty confident that he's done these things that they're accusing him of, but we don't know this for sure. We can't say for certain that he's guilty. He probably is, but we can't say that without a shadow of a doubt that he is. So the Ravens should be able to say, hey, bro, we really appreciated your contribution to the team. Sorry it ended this way, but best of luck to you in your future endeavors. What's wrong with that? I don't know. Anyway, Gabe Davis got released today. Did you guys see that? That's pretty interesting. 1 year into a 3-year, what was it, $36 million contract he signed? Bills fans could have told you when they signed him, you're making a mistake. Don't do it. The only mistake that the Jags made was signing him, because that deal he signed, that's number 3 money he signed for. Like, Josh Palmer just got the same exact deal from Buffalo. Do you think Buffalo's signing Josh Palmer to be their number 2 wide receiver? I hope not. I mean, maybe they are. But $12 million a year is to me, at least, I could be wrong here, that's number 3 wide receiver to me, money. Like, when the Commanders signed Curtis Samuel to that 3-year, I think it was might have been $39 million. Might have been 36. That felt like number 3 money to me. And then they promptly went out and drafted Jahan Dotson so that Curtis Samuel could be the number 3 receiver. That's number 3 money to me. Like, $10 to $12 million a year at the receiver position is number 3 wide receiver money. They paid him and they said, you're our number 2 receiver, Gabe. How do you feel about that? Huh? Yeah? Huh? Yeah? Huh? And he's like, I mean, I guess it's cool. I mean, I'm back home, so that's pretty dope. All right, let's get it then, man. Come on. And then he promptly goes out and gets you 20 catches in 10 games, and they're like, ugh, the hell is this? I can't get jiggy with this shit. So new regime comes in, new general manager, new head coach, and obviously you know how this goes. So they get rid of him. And I don't know, I might be out on a limb by myself, and I'm cool with that. I've never been afraid. As you can see earlier in the show when I talked about Kraven, I'm not afraid to go out on a limb by myself. I think he can be a good number 3 receiver for someone. Like, don't ask Gabe Davis to be a route runner. Don't ask Gabe Davis to be extravagant. Don't ask him to carry the load as the number 2 receiver. Just ask him to be a number 3, and whatever he gives you as a number 3 is cool. Right? I, I'm interested in Gabe Davis. I want to see where he ends. You know, normally when shit like this happens, you know what ultimately happens? People like, man, you can't go home. And then you know what they usually say? You know, when I heard that, when I was back home. Normally, when a dude gets released like this, they go back home. I wouldn't be shocked if Gabe Davis ends back up in Buffalo. But we'll see. They just, speaking of Buffalo, perfect segue. Look at that. Would you look at that? Bills signed wide receiver Elijah Moore to a 1-year, $5 million deal. I've been talking all offseason about what the hell is going on with Elijah Moore. Why won't anybody sign this guy? What has he done? Is he a locker room cancer? What's going on here? And someone had told me, oh, the Browns tendered him, which I had missed. I was like, oh, I might have missed it then. You know, normally I don't miss those type of things. But it was like, yeah, the Browns tendered him. If, you know, no one signs him, he's going back to Cleveland. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I see the Bills sign Elijah Moore to a 1-year, $5 million deal. And I'm like, hell yeah. I love that move for Buffalo. And I brought this up the other day. I don't remember where I brought it up, but I know I brought it up somewhere where this signing literally happened right after. If you haven't seen it, it's great stuff. Brandon Beane was on a radio program, I think, with a couple of Bills fans. And again, could have been a local station up in Orchard Park or something in northern New York. And he calls in and he's talking to these dudes, and apparently they brought up the fact that the Bills didn't do much at receiver. And Brandon Beane he blacks out, basically. He's like, you guys are always bitching. Like, you know, we went to the AFC Championship game last year and, you know, basically was a quarterback sneak away from the Super Bowl. And Josh Allen had arguably the best, you know, season of his career, yada, yada, yada. You know, we won X amount of games. We did this, we did that. And you guys are still bitching about not having enough receivers. What are you guys talking about? Like, it was great. And because, you know, when somebody in that position comes at you, this is the thing I love, because everybody wants a voice. Everybody's got some shit to say until the person you're talking about or you're questioning steps to your front door and checks your ass and pulls your card and says, hey, you a bitch. And you know what the person that was talking shit usually does? Proves them right and starts to bitch up. Instead of standing their ground and saying, nah, y'all need a number 1 receiver. That shit ain't good enough. You think if you'd had a number 1 receiver, you'd have beat Kansas City, maybe, right? But, you know, instead, and again, you got to toe the line, right? Like, you don't want to get nasty with him because he's a guest on your program. You get nasty and sort of abrasive with him, he may never come back. And you may never get any more people of that stature to be on your show. So you gotta play the game. But it was just crazy to see him buck off like that. And a lot of times on social media, when everybody thinks they're a comedian and they start talking shit, and then the person they talking shit about gets in their mix, oh, they start backpedaling, man. I'm like, this shit is crazy. You would have thought they were at the combine and they're doing defensive back drills because they backpedaling their ass off. I'm like, you a bitch, you know? But I'm glad to see the Bills signed Elijah Moore. I think he can play. I really think he can play. So, good to see him get picked up. And the Bills have this like melting pot of receivers. We'll see how it all works out for him. I love the Josh Palmer signing this offseason. Now you throw in Elijah Moore. I think they've got a lot of stuff. We'll see how they sort it all out. But we'll see if Keon Coleman, because I'm not a big Keon Coleman fan, we'll see if he takes a big leap in year 2. They need him to. They really do. But anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. Josh Gates, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. Mob, you know what to do. Show our guy Josh Gates some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad. Josh Gates, glad to have you on board. John Perez, my guy, JP. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JP, writes, Lakers let me down. So disgusted. At least the Capitals won their first round series. Also watch Max Fried versus Dylan Cease go at it in the Bronx. Max has been really good. I knew last year was going to be his last year with the Braves, so I had mentally prepared myself for that. But, watching how poorly we started this season off, and, you need a stopper. That's what they call it in baseball. A guy that when you're losing games, he stops your slide. You need that guy to give you that quality start. You're on a 2-game skid. This guy's his turn in the rotation. He's gonna put it to sleep, right? When you don't have one of those dudes, that's how you lose 8-9 games in a row, right? Because you don't have that one guy that goes out there and gives you 7 1/3 of 4-hit, no run, or 5-hit, 1-run ball and give you a chance to snap your losing streak. Max Fried is that kind of guy. So I know they're enjoying him in the Bronx right now. Seems like all the good Braves end up going to the Yankees. But again, I digress. The Caps, look, you act like the Caps can't win their second round matchup, right? Yeah, they lost the first game in overtime. We'll see what happens in game 2. But you sound like you counting the Caps out already. Don't do that after one game. I could have told you the Lakers weren't going to go very far in the playoffs. And I know you were getting hyped. You were so hyped after the Luka trade, as you should have been. But I told you, I said, you don't have any paint presence, right? You don't have any real defense. And Luka doesn't play defense. I think you saw that very clearly in this series. Luka is a liability on the defensive side of the basketball. And in the playoffs, as we continue to watch the Knicks erase 20-point deficits, even though if the Celtics start hitting shots, they're going to win that series. I'm confident that they're going to win that series if they can start making some shots. To be up 20 in both of the first 2 games, shooting as poorly as they have, tells you just how much better the Celtics are than the Knicks. And if some of those shots, they don't have to start shooting the lights out. If some of those shots start to go down, instead of shooting 15 of 60, you shoot 23 of 60, they win, right? Hell, shoot 20 of 60 and they win game 1, right? I mean, theoretically speaking, had they shot 16 of 60, they would have won game 1. But you get where I'm going with this. They don't have to shoot exponentially better, just a little bit better, and they will win these games in that series. But the Lakers don't play defense at a high enough clip to do anything of note in the postseason. You look around in the playoffs right now. Look around. Every team in the playoffs has the ability to play really good defense. And that's what wins championships in the NBA. We can sit here and talk about teams running up and down the court, scoring 120. That shit don't happen in the playoffs very often. I mean, did the Knicks and Celtics game make it to 100? Like, this is playoff basketball. You're not shooting, 32 free throws. That's not happening in the postseason. That's why I love playoff basketball. I can't stand the regular season because you get guys like SGA who, pump fake, you breathe on him, and he's going to the line 22 times in a game. And you look up and he's got 38 points, and he only shot 9 of 19 from the field, but he went to the free throw line 22 times. You're like, God damn, that shit ain't happening in the playoffs. Like I said, you got to power through contact. They're not blowing the whistle. And the Lakers just don't have that capability. You know, they don't have that capability. Because if you're going to have Luka on the floor, that's why do you think it was important that the Mavs had 2 bigs down there, right? Lively and Gafford, right? You had to, because people were going to get past Luka. They were going to blow past Luka, and they were going to get to the paint. And you had to have someone at the rim to protect it. So that wasn't a surprise. John Week, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy John Week writes, John Week, don't miss a stream, son. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support. Appreciate that, John Week. John Perez, my guy, JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy, JP writes, Kraven got bad reviews, but I enjoyed it personally. I mean, it got killed. I mean, part of the reason it took me so long to watch it is because there was so much negative feedback of the movie. I was like, it's probably trash. If I got 7 people telling me, yo, that movie is ass, bro, don't waste your time, I'm like, it's probably ass. And I'm not gonna lie, I let it affect me. And I'm generally, I don't. I want to watch something for myself. And I just said F it. After watching Havoc and being disappointed in that, I was like, shit, if this is disappointing, what's another disappointing movie gonna do? Shit, we already done watched one already. So that's the kind of frame of mind I was in. And I enjoyed it. Shit. I thought it was a good movie. Damn it. Now I want 2. I want a sequel. So again, but I might be, me and you, JP, might be road dogs on this one. We might be alone. We might be the only ones out here trying to get a sequel going. So it's good to know I'm not by myself. It's all good though. John Week, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Good old Sua Cravens. We weren't actually talking about Sua Cravens, but yeah, he's quite the fellow. It was funny listening to Rio talk about the story about Sua Cravens getting all the rest of his jerseys and giving them out before he quit, before he left. That was funny, right? Sua Cravens was he was definitely one of those dudes that was taco short of a combination plate, but but in a harmless way, not like some of these dudes who are like loco in the cabeza. He was just like, I don't think he really loved football. That was his problem, was like he liked what football could provide for him. I don't think he actually loved playing football. And that's okay, right? That's okay. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy. C-Mac. Thank you for being a member for 7 months. Really, truly do appreciate you. Who writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise. 2 questions. Shoot, Chris. 1, what are the top 3 sporting events you have not been and want to go to, and why? And 2, where do you rank Lamb and Pickens in the top 10 NFL wide receiver tandems, and why? Top 3 sporting events that I've never been to that I would like to go. That is a great question. So I want to go. I've been to boxing events. Matter of fact, Keyshawn Davis, shout out to Norfolk, stand up. We in the building, 757. You know what it is. He's coming back to the Scope again in June. Me and Pops is going to be in the building. Me and Boss Man, we went the last time he came, had a blast. And so and we knew he was coming back because it went so well the first time. with the promotion, I was like, I know they coming back. Sold out event, standing room only, and it went well. Nobody got shot. Everything went off without a hitch. It was a great night for the city. So I knew he was gonna come back and do it again. So we're gonna be in the building, but I would love to go to a massive like fight in Vegas. Like that is like I don't know like how many of those exist anymore because the sport isn't what it once was. But I've heard legendary tales of fight night in Vegas, big fight night in Vegas. I would love to be a part of that. Um, I going to a Duke Blue Devils game at Cameron Indoor, preferably against Carolina, but just being in that environment is on the bucket list. Those home games are so hard to get into. And then when they're playing someone good, they tax on top of it. I mean, shit, dudes are camping out, before tickets go on sale. It's just tough to get into a Duke game. So, me and my buddy are Duke fans. We swear we're gonna go to one of those eventually. So that's on the bucket list. So that's two. And I think, man, there's certain events that I like watching on TV. I'm not sure if I care to be in attendance. Like I love watching horse racing. I love watch. I don't think I want to stand out there and watch that shit though. Um, huh. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what the third one would be. Those two are definitely high on my list. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I want to go to a Notre Dame game too, but I don't like. I'm not dying to go to a Notre Dame game. Like that's not something like I'm not on some Rudy shit. Like Rudy's dad. This is the most beautiful thing these eyes have ever seen. Like, uh, I would love to go to South Bend, but I'm not pressed. I definitely like. I'm going to. I'm going to a Duke game at some point. At you know, I'm going to a Duke game. Um, I don't know what the third thing on my bucket list would be. I'm not really pressed for anything else. Those are the two that I can think of that I really want to be a part of. Um, as far as CD Lamb and Pickens, man, I need to look at a list of teams because once I see the teams and I can visualize them, then I can finally think about the tandems and who has what. Let's see, NFL standings. I'll just look at it like that. That's the easiest thing to do. Um, that way you can group them by you can group them by divisions and whatnot. So let's go by divisions. So Buffalo they're not in this conversation. They don't even have a number one receiver. The Dolphins have a duo, so we'll put them down, Tyreek Hill and Waddle. The Jets don't currently have one. They had one. They don't have one any longer. Patriots don't have one. Ravens don't have one. I mean, unless you count Bateman and golly. I can see his damn face. I can't think of his name. The Boston College receiver. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. But yeah, they're not in this conversation though. Steelers had one until they traded George Pickens, so they don't currently have one. Bengals are pretty high on the list with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So you add them with the Dolphins in their group. Browns don't have one. Texans don't have one. Didn't they add a receiver this offseason? I thought they added a solid receiver this offseason, but I still don't think that puts them in the conversation. Colts don't have one. Jags don't have one. Titans don't have one. Chiefs don't have one. Chargers don't have one. Broncos don't have one. Raiders don't have one. So 2 in the AFC. Bengals and Dolphins. In the NFC, you got the Eagles have one. You put them with the Dolphins and Bengals. Commanders now have one with Debo and Terry. But they're not going to be at the top of this list. But you can throw them in the mix. Obviously, CD and Pickens, throw them in the mix. Giants don't have one. Lions don't have one. I mean, Jameson Williams is really good, but I don't even know if he has 1,000-yard season. I don't think he has 1,000-yard season under his belt. So I don't think they have one. Vikings have one. So you throw them in the mix with Addison and Jettas. Packers don't have one. Bears don't have one, although I think they could have one. All right, with Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, but that's not a thing yet. And then they just added Luther Burden, so they got a lot of stuff, but not yet. Bucks have one, so you throw them in the mix. So let's see. You got 2 in the AFC, 3, 4, 5. Shit, you got 3 just in the NFC East alone, right? That's crazy. You got the Vikings 4, Bucks 5 with Godwin and Evans. Falcons no, Panthers no, Saints no. Rams, yeah. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Seahawks, no. After trading away DK, no. Cardinals, no. And 49ers, no. So Rams, Bucks, Vikings, and then the 3 NFC East teams, Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, 6, and then 2 more in the AFC gives you 8 like dynamic tandems in the league right now, like truly dynamic tandems. How would we rank them? This list. What did Addison do last year? Because Jettas is the best receiver in the league, and so just off the strength of the Jettas' ability, if Addison is even sniffing around a G in any season, I think they're number 1. Let's see what Addy's talking about, because I thought he had a good season this past year. So, a 900-yard season and 10 touchdowns, 10 tutties, 9 tutties in his first year, 10. 10 his rookie season, 911 yards his rookie season. This past season, he actually had less catches, less yards, and less touchdowns. But he averaged more yards per catch. Well, 0.9 yards more. But boy, that's interesting. Okay. That's one to keep in mind. Boy, T. Higgins and Jamar might have to go to the top of the list now. And then, no, I think I'm tripping. I might be sleeping on Waddle and company with Tyreek. Because I know T. Higgins has 2,000-yard seasons. He had 911 last year, and he set a career high with 10 touchdowns last year to T. Higgins. So we know what Jamar Chase is. Hold on. Waddle, I think Waddle and Tyreek. Tyreek had a bad year last year, though. I get it, though. Man, the quarterbacking was bad last year. But look at this. Tyreek had 1799 in 23, 1710 in 2022. Like, that was with Tua healthy. 119 and 119. He had 81 catches. So think about that. He had 91, 101, 38 less catches than he had the previous 2 seasons. 38. Didn't even crack a G last year. No, he was dealing with some injuries himself, but him and Waddle, I bet you Waddle still went over 1,000 last year though, despite Tyreek tripping. Because I think Waddle was actually healthy last year for the most part. Shit. He got me out here lying looking crazy. This is the first time he didn't hit 1,000 in his career. He had 744 yards and 2 touchdowns. Boy, the Dolphins offense was anemic last year. Golly. The importance of having a quarterback. All right. So I'm putting Waddle and Tyreek as the number one. Well, shit. Let me check AJ and Smitty. They probably doing some crazy work out here in these streets. Shit, they might be at the top of this thing right now. Why you bullshitting? Because I know AJ been putting up yards. AJ had 1,000. He had a down year last year. He had 106 catches for 1,456 yards in 2023. Last year, only 67 catches. So he had almost 40 less catches. He had 39 less catches than he did the year before and had 1,079 yards in 2024. He also dealt with some injuries as well. Smitty. Let's see. Devontae Smith. He had a down year too. 830. I mean, Jalen Hurts didn't even throw for 3,000 yards. So duh, right? Yeah, I'm gonna put Waddle, Tyreek Hill and Waddle at 1, right? So let's go back through this thing because I think I feel confident on how I want to do this now. I'm going to put Tyreek Hill and Waddle at 1. I'm going to put Addy and Jettas at 2 because, I mean, Jettas by himself is a movement. And then I know Addison hasn't had 1,000-yard season yet, but that dude is scoring touchdowns, bro. 10 in his rookie season, 9 in his second year. That's crazy. So I'm going to put them at 2 right now. I'm going to put Chase and Higgins at 3. Then I'm going to put AJ and Smitty at 4. Shit, man. CD's a beast too, man. Like some of these numbers CD been putting up is cartoonish, bro. He on that level with Jettas and them. Like, I mean, this man had 1,749 yards on 135 catches in 2023, man. That's cartoon numbers, bro. 107 catches for 1,359 in 2022. And in a down year with Dak out for half of the year, he went 101 receptions for 1,194. He's unreal. So, oh boy. I'm gonna stick to my guns though. I'm gonna say that I feel like I'm really disrespecting Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Like it's so easy to disrespect them though, right? Like we disrespect Mike Evans every day. Every day, every conversation we have about best receiver in the league, we disrespect Mike Evans because we never bring him up. Before he got injured this past season, Chris Godwin was working on 3 straight seasons of over 1,000 yards. And 4 out of his last 5 seasons over 1,000 yards. So, it's disrespectful to not even bring him up. And we know that Mike Evans has never had a season where he didn't have 1,000 yards. So, I mean, what are we talking about here? But yet, I'm finna put him and Chris Godwin last on this list. In typical fashion, man's never had less than 1,000 yards in a season. Wow. All right. So Waddle and Tyreek are 1. Jetta, he hasn't carried enough weight yet. I'm switching it. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are 2. And Jamar's put up some ridiculous numbers. Let me go see. I think Jamar might have, much like Jetta's, I think he's got 2 seasons already of over 1,700 yards. Like, that shit is crazy, bro. Let's see. No, I'm tripping. He just did it for the first time. 1,400 his first season, his rookie season. Then he had a down year in 22 with 87 for 1,046. He had 100 catches for 1,216. That's crazy when you say 87 for 1,046 is a down year. That's wild, but that's just the standard he set. 100 catches, 1,216, and 7 tutties. This man had, was he the Triple Crown this year? No, somebody had more than 127 receptions, right? I don't know. Maybe not. 117 touchdowns. I know he led the league in touchdowns because we as a fan base were trying to chase him down. We couldn't catch him. What did Jettas do this year? That's the only person that could have had more catches or yards. No, he wasn't even close. 103. But his first 3 seasons, 88 rookie season, 88, 1,400, 7 tuds, 108, 16, 16, 10 tuds in 2021, his second year, 128, 1,809, and 8 tubs in his third season. The most yards and catches to start an NFL career over the first 3 years. This dude is ridiculous. Had an injury marred 23 season, cut short, still had 1,000 yards, and only played, I think, in like 9 or 10 games. Still had 1,000 yards, and then last year came back 103 catches, 1,533 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's an alien. So all right, here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and give you this list. So I got the Dolphins duo of Tyreek Hill and Waddle 1. 2 is going to be Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You know what I'm going to do? This is the easiest way to like set a criteria for this. I got it. I figured it out. How many overlapping years of 1,000-yard seasons do these receivers have, right? So in the case of Justin Jefferson, he hasn't played with Addy that long. So they've only been together 2 years. And Addy hasn't gone for 1,000 yet. So Justin Jefferson is really carrying that by himself. Let's see about T and Jamar, right? So T has 2,000-yard seasons in 22 and 21. Jamar Chase is going to overlap those 2 years. So that's probably going to be 2 years where they both went over 1,000 yards together. Yeah, 21 and 22. So they got 2 years together of over 1,000. Tyreek and Waddle have been together for just 3 years. And I'm guessing I got to look at their numbers because neither of them went over 1,000 yards this past year. But I'm guessing in both 22 and 23, they both went over 1,000 is my guess. But let's check now. Jalen Waddle. Yeah, they both went over 1,000 in 23 and 22. And 21, he went over 1,000 his rookie year, did Waddle. But Hill was a part of the Chiefs then. So technically overlapping 3 seasons of 1,000 yards in the same year for those two, but they 2 as teammates. All right. So the lead right now is 2 seasons. Both the Bengals duo and the Dolphins duo both have 2. The Eagles duo probably have. My guess is they probably got. I'd say 2, right? I'd say 2 as well for them. AJ Brown. There could be a third. So, because Smitty didn't go over a rack this year, and AJ he's only been an Eagle for 3 years. So they've been teammates for 3 years. Because I think Smitty was there the year before AJ got there, and then they went and traded for him. And he's gone over 1,000 each of the 3 years he's been in Philadelphia. Smitty didn't go over 1,000 this year. So I'm going to say the number for them is 2 as well. And it is. So they've got 2. Nobody's got more than 2 right now, 1,000-yard seasons concurrently. I think George Pickens only has 1,000-yard season, so we can already eliminate Dallas's duo there. I think the Bucks might have it, to be honest with you. As much disrespect as we want to send their way. Now, they've played together longer, too, so there's that, right? Chris Godwin and it's really up to Chris, because we know your boy goes over 1,000 every year. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons of 1,000 yards together. So, I mean, if we're going off of that as the statistic, then the Bucks would be in the league. But there's no way they're the number 1 duo in the league. So let's go ahead and rank them. So that's a part of the criteria, right? It's not the end all be all. So I'm sticking with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle as my number 1. I'm going to take T. Higgins and Jamar Chase as my number 2. I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm going to move them up to 3 and say Smitty and AJ are 3. I'm going to put the Bucks duo of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at 4. I'm going to put Jettas at 5. I'm going to put the Commanders duo of Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel at 6, and then the Cowboys are at 7. I think that we got all of them, right? I think there were 5 in the NFC. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Oh, the Rams. Oh, shit. Forgot about them. I think they might go straight to the top. Between Puka, now clearly they haven't been teammates before, but the body of work for those two is insane. So Puka's only been in the league 2 years, and his numbers are crazy. Okay, so he didn't go over 1,000 last year. He went 990 last year, so they're not going straight to the top. He had 1486 in his rookie season, which was crazy for like a 5th or 6th round pick. And then we know Devontae, his numbers are crazy. But he's had 2 nasty seasons in a row. Well, no, last year was just nasty. And I say last year was nasty, and he still had 1,000 yards receiving, right? 854 for the Jets, and then 209 for the Raiders. So that puts you at 1063 on the season. So even in a down year, this man still went over 1,000 yards for the 5th straight season and 6th time in the last 7 years. And the one time in that 7-year stretch he didn't go over 1,000, he had 997. So, you know what Devontae is all about. So now we got to fit them into this equation. So everybody, I think you just push everybody down 1 and insert them, I think, right below the Vikings with Jettas. Because I think right above them, because I'm going to say Jetta and Devontae canceled each other out. And then who's better, Puka Nacua or Jordan Addison? Clearly the answer is Puka Nacua. So I'd slide them above Minnesota, push everybody down 1, pretty much. So the Cowboys are still dead last in this conversation. just because George Pickens really has not established himself as an absolute dog. Like, we've seen flashes. He's had one season of 1,000 yards, but he's not an all-purpose dynamo like Deebo Samuel is. So, it's hard to give him that type of respect yet, but CD is so good. And that's like kind of the area where you fall into with some of these dudes. Like, Jettas is so good. CD is so good. Jamar is so good that you're like, whoever is with them doesn't matter, but it does matter, right? If we're talking tandem. So I think the Cowboys are still last in this conversation. We had 8 tandems in the league. They're 8th with their 2. But they weren't in the conversation before this trade. They were with the rest of the league with just one, number 1 receiver or no number 1 receiver. Of course, they had one. Now they're in the conversation, but they're still last, I think. I think they're still 8th in that conversation. So there's that. Look, you sent me down a damn rabbit hole. Congratulations, Chris. Kevin, the PRF. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, 5th-year option boosters include paying 75% of snaps, okay, making 1 Pro Bowl, okay, making multiple Pro Bowls. So you are rewarded for availability, okay? Making 1 Pro Bowl boosts you, and then if you make more than one, so I would assume like there's a certain number that they times it by, and it would be like playing 75% of the snaps moves it up a certain percentage. Let's say you get a 7% increase on the amount of money you were making just by playing 75% of the snaps if they pick up your 5th-year option. Then if you play 75% of the snaps, and like if you just do one of these things, or let's just say you play 75% of the snaps or make 1 Pro Bowl, then you get a 7% increase. I'm just making this up. I'm saying this is how I think it goes. So if you do 2 of those things, like 75% of the snaps and make the Pro Bowl, then it increases to, say, maybe 10%, or it doubles to 14%. But I'll probably, on the safe side, say like 12.5%, and they're not going to go up too hard, right? And then for every Pro Bowl that you make in that same time frame, they increase it by another, 5% or whatever. Like, that's probably how it goes. Because you're only going to be able to be allowed to make 3 Pro Bowls. It's only 3 seasons before they have to make a decision. So it's not going to get out of control. So they're going to set it at something that makes sense. It might be like 7, 10, and 12.5, or 5, 10, and 15. If you played 75% of the snaps, because you could not play 75% of the snaps and make 3 Pro Bowls. So again, I think in order to maximize the amount you make, you got to play the snaps and make the Pro Bowl every year. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Kevin the PRF, been a member for 36 months. Salute to my guy, Kevin the PRF writes, when we traded down, I wanted Linderbaum. Every time we trade back, there's a certain guy that most fans have in mind. Like, you wanted Linderbaum. I know there were a number of people that wanted Kyle Hamilton. He got taken, obviously, before we got on the clock the second time by the Ravens. Also, I know somebody, I can't remember who it was, but he's like, yo, I wanted Trent McDuffie so bad. And he's turned into a damn good corner, right? And every time I bring up Trent McDuffie, he says, man, I wanted us to draft him in that draft. I kept saying it. So, hindsight is 2020, obviously. It's easy to look back now and be like, we should have drafted this guy. We should have drafted that guy. in the moment, I was cool with Jahan Dotson. A lot of fans weren't, right? And then when they went and they watched him, they were like, "Oh shit, he's nice, he's cold." But it didn't work. And we felt like we got it right when the first 2 weeks of that season took place, and Jahan had 2 touchdown grabs in his first game against Jacksonville, and then another touchdown catch against the Lions the following week, and he was among the league leaders in touchdown catches after 2 weeks. Who didn't think we got the shit right? So, it just went downhill for him for whatever reason. The Blackout B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Blackout B writes, "What it do, Lou? Track suggestion. Where are you now? Brandy, man." All right, I'm going to check it out. My wife loves Brandy. She loves Brandy, calls her the vocal Bible. So I'm surprised. Is that new? Is that new? I'm surprised my wife didn't tell me about it, to be honest. She loves her some Brandy. Mardi Gras, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Show Mardi Gras some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad. Mardi Gras. All right. Josh Gates. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Welcome back to the mob. Who writes, public service announcement. I've been MIA for about 6 months due to life. It happens. You know what I'm saying? It's all good, bro. Just glad you're doing well. Glad you're on the right side of the dirt and continuing to thrive, hopefully, in life, right? But I'm glad to be back with the squad and glad to see you doing well, Lou. Likewise, Josh. Life be lifing. But it's good to know you still out here alive and kicking and doing well, man. So still out here grinding, man. Still out here in these streets. But good to hear from you. Hopefully I'll hear from you more now, and hope all is well in your neck of the woods. Welcome back, Josh Gates. LT, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. LT writes, why no one closed the gap to us enough? I mean, because you were so far ahead of everyone. I mean, you had the best roster in football last year. You probably still got the best roster in football right now. I don't think your roster is as good this year as it was last year, though. But that said, you're still the best roster in football. So, don't have to have the best roster to win. That's the good thing. So, but I don't think anyone's closed the gap considerably in terms of roster wise. Nah, you guys still got it. You guys still got the best roster in football. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy John Perez writes, I still can't believe Duke choked in that Final Four. 7-point lead with a minute left and still lost. Gross. I'm a UNC fan, and even I was disgusted. It was the most devastating loss I've ever been a part of as a Duke fan. I've seen a lot of, soul-crushing losses. Nothing like that before. And that was a championship team. Like Cooper Flagg and that group, that's one of the best constructed Duke teams I've ever seen in my life. And for them to not come away as champions, definitely vomit inducing for sure. We've seen, it's funny though. We've seen a lot of blown leads in sports here recently. Basketball in particular. That Tyrese Halliburton 3 to beat the Cavs, they were up 7 with just over a minute. Max Strus hit a 3 with about a minute and 7 left. There's no way you lose an NBA game up 7 with a minute 7 to go. Just like there was no reason for Duke to lose a game up. I think we were up 5 with like 30 something. Like there's no way you lose that game. I was shocked when I went back and watched that Cavs game. and saw Max Strus hit that three to put him up. I think it was 100 to 107 to 100. And I'm like, oh, if I was watching the game live, I would have been like, okay, yeah, that's it. But because I knew the outcome, I'm like, how the hell did they lose after he hit that three? This shit should have been over. But you missed some free throws, which Duke did, which the Cavs did, which OKC did. That you have to implode when you blow a lead, like Duke did, like OKC did, like the Cavs did. You have to implode, right? The Celtics didn't miss free throws. They just couldn't make any shots. They went cold for 6 minutes. No field goal in 6 minutes until that Tatum dunk in this game. And I think it was like 5 and some change the game before they went ice cold and let the Knicks come back. So it takes a lot to see a lead evaporate, but all the stars have to align, and it definitely did with that Duke game. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, writes, Lou, go watch the Hunger Game film series. My wife is a massive fan of the books and movies. I promise you won't be disappointed. Crazy part is, I watched the first two and loved them. They're just so damn long. And it's not enough action for you to keep me interested for that damn long. And it feels like they get longer and longer. And, after the first two, I was like, okay, I mean, what are we doing here? So I think I dropped out after the second one. I mean, how many more did they make? They had to make at least 2 more, maybe 3. Yeah, they lost me after the second one. And then the first 2 were good. I think I got through like half of the third one, and I was like, I can't do this shit. So I'm out. I'm out of the Hunger Games series. But I know that there are a lot of people who love that series. And I love the first 2 movies. Thought they were really good. So anyway, I digress. All right. So that is social media maneuvers. Let's finish up the show with garbage time. So I want to have the discussion about, and I think I briefly brought this up, but I'm going to expound upon it here because I've heard both sides of the argument, and I can respect the other side's argument. I get it. But I wanted to have a jersey number conversation, a jersey retirement number conversation. So recently, we've seen these new wave of players that were just drafted into the NFL come in, and they're trying to choose jersey numbers. And it's really only a big deal for the guys that go at the top of the draft, the top 5, right? Nobody really cares about a second round pick's jersey number or a third round. Only the fans of that team. But national media doesn't give a shit about your second round pick's jersey number. But when you're the top pick in the draft, as Cam Ward was, and he wore number 1 at the U, and you come into the NFL and you want the number 1, but it's retired by the Houston, well, I want to say the Houston Oilers, but it's the Tennessee Titans franchise, which used to be the Houston Oilers, and Warren Moon's number. And in order to have it unretired, you have to have the blessing of the guy who wore it. And I'm just not a fan of unretiring a number of a player that earned the right to not have anyone else in that organization wear that number, right? There's a reason why it's retired. So there's an argument that can be made. And I think the thing that really brought this to light is the whole Abdul Carter. Like, they've really, really bungled that situation. Abdul Carter, like, this shit isn't that hard to me, right? Come into the league and have a list of numbers that, all right, this is the one I want first. He won at 56. LT said, hell no, go forge your own path. Good for him. I wish more people would do that. So then 11, which is the next logical choice because that's what he wore at Penn State. Oh, well, let me get 11. Well, Phil Simms has that number retired. And Phil Simms was like, because most quarterbacks cave, right? It's the defensive players and the other dudes that's like, nah, go do your own shit, bro. That's my number. The quarterbacks, they cave, right? Because all their entire life they've been selfless. They've always had to put others before themselves. So quarterbacks are more likely to be like, nah, you go ahead and get that, man. You know, young fella, I ain't gonna stop you. Joe Theismann did it with Dwayne Haskins, God rest his soul. Warren Moon just gave Cam Ward his number 1 jersey in Tennessee. And Phil Simms was prepared to give a dual Carter number 11. And then Phil Simms' wife and daughter said, no, the hell you are not. And they made a big deal about it. And Phil Simms said, bro, Chris, you got to talk to your mom and your sister. If you can't get them on board with this, I'm going to have to tell the kid I can't do it. Like, they're really on my case, bro. And Chris Simms was like, bro, once my sister has her mind made up, it ain't nothing you can do. And she holds grudges. If my dad were to go through with this, she probably wouldn't talk to this dude for a couple years. Like, it's that serious. So at this point, Phil Simms was like, bro, I'm too old for this shit. I ain't got time, bro. I have my wife and my daughter mad at me over this shit. So nah, you can't have the number. Sorry. You know, if it were up to me, I'd get the shit to you, but I can't. So now he's got to go back to the drawing board. It's not that hard, bro. You should have come into this thing with a list of 5 numbers, right? Because you're the number 3 overall pick. So if the number isn't available, there's a way that if that guy ain't been in the league, he's not a vested veteran, there's a way you can get the number if you want it. And then there are other numbers that are probably available that somebody might want. But if you say as the number 3 pick, I want this number, you're going to get it. You're going to have the right of first refusal on that number. So it was crazy to see how that situation played out in New York, but it opened up the conversation about jersey numbers and retirement in the NFL in particular. And I've heard a couple arguments for you shouldn't retire numbers in the NFL. It's too many players, yada, yada, yada. Basketball, baseball, basketball roster, 15 guys, and Major League Baseball roster, 25 dudes. You can retire numbers. There's plenty of numbers to go around. And there are no number restrictions in those sports. Like, a center could wear 0, a center could wear 99, a center could wear 33, a guard, same thing. You can wear whatever number you want in those sports. Doesn't matter, irregardless of position. In the NFL, there are restrictions to certain positions, and so it makes it tough if you start retiring numbers. I get the argument. But I am still of the mindset that if a guy has the type of career that warrants that his number should no longer be allowed to be worn in that organization's history, then they should be allowed to do it. I think where the problem lies is that too many, like there should, you know how I am about the Hall of Fame. Like everybody shouldn't be allowed to get in, all right? Everyone shouldn't be allowed to get in the Hall of Fame. And everyone shouldn't have their jersey retired, their jersey number retired. It should be reserved for a very select few. And if you retire 7 numbers in your franchise's history, like that's not stopping, you from constructing a 53-man roster. I don't agree with eradicating certain numbers. Like if I'm a Texas, so the argument is that the teams like Dallas, Houston, the Raiders, and the Falcons have it right. So those teams don't retire jerseys. They honor players' numbers, but they don't retire. So I don't want to see some Joe Schmo running around in a Texans 99 jersey. I should never see another guy wearing 99 in Houston. I shouldn't. But they don't retire numbers. So some bum that they took in the 4th round could be running around as an ass clown wearing 99 and desecrating the number. That's insane to me. J.J. Watt's the greatest player in Texans history. Why is anybody wearing that number? It's crazy to me. Nobody should be wearing Andre Johnson's 80. I don't think there are going to be many guys that come up in the game now that are receivers that want to wear 80 anyway, but nobody should be wearing 80 in Houston. And I get it. The Raiders have had a ton of guys over the years that have had, made tremendous impact on that organization. They could have a ton of numbers retired. I get it. Same, I'm pretty sure the Steelers have a number of numbers retired, but that's not stopping them from fielding a 53-man roster. Remember, I don't give a shit when the roster is at 90. I don't care. I don't care if we got 2 number 2s and 3 numbers. I don't give a shit about any of that. Because once the roster is cut down to 53, everyone will find a number. Yeah, we may have 9 numbers retired. Okay, work your way around those 9 numbers. 53 numbers are all we need. That's it. That's all we need. 53. And then if you want to add in the extra 16 guys on the practice squad, so roughly 70 numbers is what you need out of 99. I think I forgot what team leads the way with 14 retired numbers. That's a lot of numbers retired, right? That's a lot of numbers. But that's when you got that many numbers retired, because some of these organizations, they got numbers retired for dudes that played in the 1930s, and not to shit on them, the 1940s and 50s. But like when Malik Neighbors came in and he's like, yo, I want that 1. And it was like, oh, sorry, this was worn by Bugs McGee back in 1958 through 1964. Like, what are we doing here, right? Like, old Bugs McGee wore this back in 48. You can't wear it. What are we doing? Like, we shouldn't be retiring numbers for pre-merger. Like 1970 AFL NFL merger is when that's the cutoff. With a few exceptions, in our case, like slinging Sammy Ball is the father of the forward pass. Yeah, his numbers should be retired. I think so. Right. But like, it's got to be something to that extent. It can't be just, he was a great center for the Giants for 6 years in the 40s and into the early 50s. Nah. Sorry, bub. Yeah, we can't retire your number for that. We can put your name around the stadium though, right? My thought process on this is numbers should be retired. If you've had a great enough career, like there should be no other New England Patriot wearing 12. I don't want to see Tommy Smollett wearing 12 in New England in 2029. I don't want to see that shit. Nobody else should wear 12 in New England. Period. Julian Edelman is having his Ring of Fame. He's getting inducted into the Patriots Ring of Fame. That's where he belongs. His number should not be retired, right? Gronk shouldn't have his number retired. Hell of a career. He'll be a Hall of Famer. First ballot, probably. He shouldn't have his number retired, though. He was a great player. Don't get me wrong. But that's what I'm saying. You have to be judicious. I mean, you have to be very, very deliberate with this, and it has to be certain guys where you go, okay, no, nobody's ever wearing that number again. Okay. And maybe Gronk does deserve to have his number retired. You probably ask Patriots fans, they probably tell you, yeah. But that's to me also a prerequisite. You got to be a Hall of Famer to have your number retired. We can't be retiring numbers of players who aren't Hall of Famers. And then, again, certain instances like for Sean Taylor, tragic circumstances, nobody else should wear 21. Get it. Understand. Like if the Eagles decided nobody else is wearing 99 in honor of Jerome Brown, totally get it. Totally get it. That makes sense. But outside of that, outside of tragic circumstances for a really good player, you got to be a Hall of Fame player that changed the game in order to get your number retired. And I think that once it's retired, there shouldn't be a conversation around unretiring the number. Go find another number. Sorry. It's unfortunate you got drafted to a team that your favorite number is not available. Find another number. Don't leave it up to the player to say no and look like an ass. Because players don't want to be the bad guy. as an organization, step up and say, no, we retired that number. That number is not available. Find a different one. It's not hard. Anyway, I digress. Obviously, each team has the option to retire numbers, unretire them, not retire them at all, as the Texans, Raiders, Falcons, and Cowboys do not. They're the only 4 teams in the league that do not retire numbers. And I've heard people say that they have it right. I disagree with that. I think it's pretty cool what the Cowboys do with 88. Like, it's a tradition that they, like, if you're a stud receiver, you wear 88. Like, that's a college thing, right? It's not many teams in the NFL that do that. That's a college thing, where if you're a captain at LSU, it's prestigious to be given the number 18. That's a thing, right? At one point at Alabama, if you were a beast linebacker, you wore 32. That was a thing, right? Or is a thing. Same thing with Penn State. If you're that dude on defense at linebacker, you wear 11, right? You don't see that in the NFL. The Cowboys thing with the 88, with the tradition of that Michael Irvin, well, Drew Pearson started it first with 88. It's pretty dope. I will admit, that's pretty dope. Now CeeDee Lamb's carrying the torch, which he got from Dez Bryant. And, Dez got it from, I want to say, he wasn't even that good, but he had 88. Damn, I can't think of his name. He's from, he wasn't from Oklahoma State. That's Dez Bryant. Forgot where he went, but he had it, and then I think Irvin had it before that. So it's a pretty dope tradition in Dallas. But I myself prefer, I don't want to see anybody wear the number 7 in Atlanta. But if somebody wanted to wear it, I guess they would let them. But I don't think anybody else should wear a number 7 for the Atlanta. I mean, again, I have a certain space in my heart for Michael Vick. So, and Michael Vick was a transcendent player in the National Football League. But again, to each its own. I just hate that these young guys come in and they don't respect tradition. I'm a big tradition guy. Respect tradition. All right? That number's retired. Get another number. And numbers matter. I'm fully aware. As a guy that played sports, I understand the meaning of a number and how, if I've always had the number fill in the blank, I want that number bad. And guys are willing to pay for it. But if that number isn't available, there ain't nothing I can do for you, bro. Pick another number. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the 502nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I really appreciate y'all carving out some time for me to chop it up with y'all, get a little bit of stuff off my chest, talk about all kinds of topics under the sun, movies, NBA playoffs, trade, 5th-year option, top duos, wide receiver duos in the NFL. We're all over the place tonight. I love it. I love when we have this opportunity to do that. I knew this was going to be a long one, which is why I wanted to do this one at night. Tomorrow night, we will be live for the Command Post, where we will break down the 10 UDFA signees and what they bring to the table, and talk about if any of them have a realistic shot at threatening for a roster spot. So until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys have a great rest of the night. Take care. God bless. And good night.